And he cometh to Bethsaida, and they bring a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes, and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees, walking. After that he put his hands again upon his eyes, and made him look up, and he was restored, and saw every man clearly. And he sent him away to his house, saying, Neither go into the town, nor tell it to any of the town. And Jesus went out, and his disciples, into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. And by the way he asked his disciples, saying unto them, Whom do men say that I am? Okay, hi guys, it's T's Corner. As you see, I'm in my first favorite corner. It's my man King Tut behind me. And I have read for your hearing today Mark 8. This is from the King James Version. Mark 8, verses 22 through 26. And I read that because I am going to do a review now on Greenleaf Season 1, Episode 11, Men Like Trees Walking. And I read that scripture so you can have it in your mind, because we'll get to it a little later, but so you be thinking on it. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? What is your interpretation of that scripture? So, we start out episode 11 with Bishop sitting in his chair in the pulpit, looking mighty haggard and run down. He's mopping his brow, and he's shaking with Parkinson's or ALS or whatever it is that is going on with him right now medically that has yet to be fully uncovered. And then you hear his voice as a voiceover, preaching a sermon, really yelling, not so much talking, he's yelling a bit. And then you see him preaching, and he looks like, he's struggling, he's having a hard time, and I don't know if this is because he's sick or what. At least that's what I thought it was. I thought, he wasn't feeling well. And so, trying to preach and keep it undercover that he's not feeling well was not going so well. Well, reality is that the camera pans out to the congregation of Calvary Fellowship. And it's all of 30 people sitting in this church that has a membership of over 4,000. So we then find out that it's 4 weeks since Uncle Devil has been shot and gone to jail. And everything just kind of blew up. And in those 4 weeks, since that time that these things have happened, church fellowship has fallen off. The membership has fallen off. People are not coming. People are not tithing. People are not, putting in their offerings. And so the church is losing money. So they're hemorrhaging money right now, as well as members. And Deacon Connie Sykes comes to Bishop to give him the treasury report and said that the Williams, Fred and Misty, are really pushing for Jacob to be reinstated. They want someone not associated with the mess to be preaching, as opposed to the man who then shot his brother-in-law in the church house. He said that's not going to happen. That would derail Jacob from his destiny. She said, well, bring Gigi up. And he said Gigi's the cause of this whole mess in the first place, which I totally disagree with. No, you and Mac and your secrets and your lying and his nastiness is the cause of it. She's the one writing the ship. But Connie says, well, that Sunday that she preached was our largest offering of the year. And people think that she can right this ship if she's the one who capsized it. And he was like, that's not going to happen. And he's still, bitter towards Gigi, which is pissing me off to no end. So I'm like, Bishop, she ain't do nothing. If you ain't had no secrets, if you was living in right relationship with God like you supposed to be up in that pulpit, then you wouldn't be worried about nothing Mac got over you, because he wouldn't have nothing over you. So it's your fault, not hers. Get over yourself and stop treating your daughter like her mother treats her. She can't take it from both of y'all. So then, in during this really hard sermon that the bishop was trying to deliver, he all of a sudden felt like singing. I don't know if he had a Suge Avery moment or what, but he said, "I feel like singing." Okay, so then he starts singing, "Is my living in vain?" And it's, that deep baritone, but real sluggish and sad and depressing. And I'm like, you got 6 people in the pews. Why are you singing something depressing? So when Connie gives him the report and they have their conversation and she gives him a kiss on the cheek, something I'd never seen between the two of them before, so it kind of threw me off. But she gives him a peck on the cheek and she goes on off and says, "I enjoyed that singing though." And she starts singing a song and it sounded a little bit better than what Bishop had been putting out in the pulpit. But she goes off, and then you see Bishop and Lady May are getting ready for bed. Lady May's in bed reading with these 1950 Batwing readers on. They were cute on her, but why everything don't have to come back. Everything does not have to be retro. And he's asking her what she's going to preach on for her Women's Day. And she says her sermon's going to be on the virtuous woman. And he was like, "Well, yeah, that's a good one. Preach what you know." And she looking at him like, "What have you been preaching all this time? Because apparently it ain't what you know." So she lets him know flat out, you're hemorrhaging money at the church and you're hemorrhaging members of the church because you are no longer in right relationship with God. I mean, you're no longer in right relationship with me either. So he ain't happy with that, and he's not ready to tell her even after a month what it is that Uncle Devil has holding over his head, and they go to sleep mad. So then we come to a roundtable discussion with um, Misty Williams, Carissa, Lady May, Charity, and Corinne, my all-time favorite associate ever. Love Corinne. And they're discussing the Women's Day. And Lady May is talking about having it at the Peabody, which is something they've done for 35 years. And the Deacons Board is not really up to paying it because they're like, we're hemorrhaging more money than, we're bringing in right now, and spending $4,500 for the Peabody just doesn't make sense. But Misty Williams says whatever the First Lady wants, that's what we'll do. Carissa, and I don't know if she was just being messy or she was being, using her head for once and not being messy, because it made sense to me. But Carissa says half of the people have already dropped out who were going to attend. So why don't we just have it here at the church, smaller venue, because we're going to have a smaller crowd, not spending $4,500. Lady May and her dignity would not have it. The ladies' annual luncheon has been at the Peabody for 35 years. It will be at the Peabody this year. How much do we still owe them? Misty informs her that it's $4,500. And after some hemming and hawing back and forth, Lady May says, "I'll pay it myself." And Charity's, "Mom, no, let the church pay for this. This is a church function. Let the church pay for it." She said, "No. Jesus proved at Calvary that not everything has to be done by committee. This has been decided." So she writes a check for $4,500 so they can go and party at the Peabody. And then they're discussing it later, and Charity's thinking of ways that they can bring money into the church. And she says, "Well, Mom, why don't I record a record and we sell that and the proceeds go to benefit the church?" Which I thought was a great idea because Charity has an amazing voice. She's whiners after all. Hey, Deborah Joy, we love your voice. And so Carissa, back to being messy. I mean, it ain't last too long. So my mother got some old sheets we could use as curtains too. Nobody asked you for that smart comment. Your messy self. So Lady May hit her with an attack straight off. It was like, well, at least she has an idea. And I don't appreciate your little show you put on in there about let's have it at the church. So now get me a list of nominees for the scholarship, and nobody on the list under 15. Because as we know, Uncle Devil done run through that and raping them little girls and then using that scholarship money as hush money. So she doesn't want that to look any kind of way affiliated or associated with his mess. So she want all people over the age of 15 to be on a scholarship. And so, cut to Gigi's office, and she and Sophia are in her office. She's working on a computer. Sophia's reading over some things in the Bible, and she reads over that scripture, Mark chapter 8, verse 23 and 24. And she asked Gigi if she could ask her a Bible question, and she said, yeah, sure. This internet's working my nerves anyway. So she asked her the question, and she says, why would they put that in the Bible? And that is always her question. Why is that in the Bible? And I love that question, because that question definitely is a conversation piece. Because once you start discussing why things are there, you start discussing what is there. And then if you're like me, you can't discuss something without knowing, what it is. So you got to go to the Bible. And I just say, in my opinion, the Lord will get his word out anyway. I am a huge Nicole Beharie fan, so I watch Sleepy Hollow religiously. Of course, now that she's gone, I won't. But I did when she was cast on the show. And they always make biblical references. I said I did more Bible study watching that show than I did in church in the last 5 years. So anyway, I digress. Grace is looking at Mark chapter 8, verses 23 and 24 with Sophia. Or actually, it's 24 and 25. I'm sorry. Either way, read it. Read the whole thing, Mark chapter 8. But, and she says, I don't know. It's like, why would Jesus put something in? Why would they include something in the Bible where Jesus does something halfway or is only like partially successful and has to do it again? And Grace said, I don't know, try and try again, which is not a bad answer if you really think about it, because you got to keep trying until you get it right. And that is a lesson in and of itself. But Sophia didn't take that as seriously what the meaning of it was. And I didn't either. That is not what I got from it. So she was amazed that Gigi could tell her what was in the verse and chapters that she was asking about without looking at it. And she said, I could recite the whole book of Mark. And she was like, really? And she was like, yeah. And she was like, what? And she was like, I was just thinking. And when I'm back and forth, she was like, Sophia said that she was thinking about how much Gigi lost leaving the church now that she knows why she left. And she was like, you were a whole other person here than the person I knew, and you lost all of that because of, it's sad that you lost that because of what Mac done. And Gigi said, that's true, but I'm glad I left, because if I didn't, I might not have had you. And, not all decisions may seem like the best decisions at the time, but it's that fork in the road and go left or go right or go straight. Something is waiting for you differently on every road. So even in the worst of times, traveling down this situation, she has a beautiful daughter that came out of something tragic and terrible. So I guess there's a lesson in that too. So anyway, then we get to okay, I'm flipping through. So Zora comes and scoops up Sophia, and her and Sophia leave, and they go and do their thing. And after the girls leave, Darlene comes into the office, and she's talking with Gigi, and she's like, your father is really shutting you out. And she was like, yeah, he is. And she said, Darlene, I gotta quit saying she when I'm talking about 600 females in the same conversation. Darlene says it's really bad to the point where I'm not even CC'd on the minutes or the church calendar anymore as your assistant. And while they're talking, a gentleman walks in, asks for Grace Greenleaf. When she says, yes, I'm she, he hands her a piece of paper. So we already know what happens. You have been served. This is a process server, apparently. But then this is some new stuff. He comes up and is like, click it, and snaps her picture. I was like, process servers are snapping pictures now? And I guess it makes sense with technology, because you have to say, I gave it to the person who claimed to be Grace Greenleaf, and this is the person that I gave it to. to prove that you gave it to the right person, because I'm sure process servers go through trying to serve people with stuff they do not want. I used to intern at the court, and I know it is like not everybody wants that summons, not everybody wants that subpoena, so sometimes they make it really hard for the process servers. And so sometimes people are just like, you know what, I'm not even calling a process server, just call the cops and have them deliver it. It's a lot easier. So then we find out that Ray, who I have told he is cute, but to go on back, I've lost my pen cap. But for Ray to go on back to Arizona and leave Gigi and Sophia alone, because you have not really been all that active in her life in the first place, so why are you trying to play super daddy now? She is fine. So Ray is suing for custody of Sophia. And Darlene hooks Gigi up. Darlene hooks Gigi up with Dwan Owens. Finally, we get to see who you are on this OWN show. And Dwan Owens is Mike Carpenter. He's going to be Gigi's lawyer. He's a friend of Darlene. And he says, you're a friend of Darlene, so you're a friend of mine, and I don't mind helping you out with this. And he lets her know that, you know, there are going to be some repercussions for crossing state lines without court permission and without notifying Ray that you were doing that because of your previous custody agreement. And he goes to ask her, you know, how did you meet? Just getting background on them. And she says, I ate at his restaurant. And at the time, Ray was a chef. And she says, I ate at his restaurant. And said, well, why did you guys split up? And she said, he cheated on me with his ex. Pause. That right there hit me like, bah. Now, everybody knows I am Team Gino all the way. If Grace and Noah ain't together, life ain't right. Period. In Greenleaf. For me. But I just thought it was really ironic that you're in two situations with two different men who are both cheating with their ex-lovers. And in the first scenario, you're the current. And in the second, you're the ex. Crazy. So, not that there's no love lost for Izzy. And where is Izzy? Not that I want her to come back. But let's just look at that for a minute. When she slapped all fire out of Noah and said she was leaving and going to stay with her mother for spring break. I don't know what goes on at Excellence, but at every school I have ever attended in my whole life, spring break is 1 week, not a month. It has been 4 weeks. Where the hell is Izzy? She's supposed to have been back and claimed her man. Which also leads me to wonder, in these 4 weeks since Izzy's been gone, because later on we'll see Gigi and Noah together at his place again. And they seem very comfortable and like this is something that they do all the time. So I'm wondering, in this 4 weeks, have they been seeing each other? I hope so. I really, really hope so. But you don't know because that hasn't been addressed. And another thing that hasn't been addressed is how they came back to being Team Gino. Because, what episode was that? Episode 9. Can't think of the name of it right now. But when Isabel found out that they had slept together, when she figured that out, he was mad with Grace. Noah was like, did you do this on purpose? As if she somehow forced him to have sex with her and then snitch with his face. So he was kind of ticked off with Gigi, like, you know, was this some kind of underhanded thing? And I was like, I'm going to need Noah to apologize for that little attitude. And so when episode 10 comes out, he has not apologized. Now he's helping her out, and she's, you know, they're back to their selves, and the camaraderie seems to be back there again. And he's helping her to deal with the stuff with Uncle Mac and what have you. And with the wedding, and they're talking, and he's like, okay, are you all right? Let me go handle this, whatever. So they seem like they're back on at least the level they were on before they slept together. when she came back to the church. But I'm like, where was the apology? You did not apologize for being a jackass. And you were definitely a jackass to her, and you need to apologize. So I'm like, so how did they get from, did you do this on purpose, to, are you okay while I go and handle this business, and back to their regular selves? I don't know. And so then we find them 4 weeks after that, sitting back sipping wine. I don't know. So anyway, Bishop's in his office and he's talking to a lawyer, and I forgot her name. But this lawyer represents Alexa. Now, I know that a lot of people are not here for Alexa. She's sleeping with Jacob. She's Becky with the good hair. Blah, blah, blah. I am so here for Alexa. And I'm finna put some of my own dirt out, but I guess it's because I've been Alexa. And I understood when she talked to David about David. Lord, I keep talking about it. I miss David. Keep talking about him. David, rest in peace. When she was telling Jacob that, you know, she didn't think of him as a piece of meat, pretty much, but that she understood he was not leaving his wife, so she was not over-investing herself. I understood that. And I understood that when she got fired for sleeping with Jacob, after Messy Carissa blew that whistle, she was terminated, and I said she was wrongfully terminated. So if you go back and you look a couple of videos back, I brought this up then. I said, I wonder if she's going to sue them for wrongful termination, because she should. Because unless there is some kind of morals clause in her contract of employment with Calvary Fellowship, then she can't be fired for sleeping with Jacob. And I don't think Bishop knows that they had sex in the server room on Sunday when she had his Bible. And I'm sure there's probably something in her employment contract about that. But he doesn't know. So, you know, wrongful termination. I'm glad to see Alexa back. I'm glad to see Alexa back with an attorney. What is it with server rooms? I know I'm all over the place, but I watched Scandal, and I didn't for the first 5 years, and then I binged this year, and now I'm hooked, and I've watched all 5 seasons. But what is it with the server room and church functions? For anyone who watches Scandal, you will know that Olitz, and I'm not an Olitzer, I don't like Fitz at all, but they had sex in the server room, and I don't know if they were at a church or what, during their goddaughter's christening. Then you got Jacob and Alexa, who's supposed to be taking the bishop his Bible in the pilot episode, A Time to Heal, in the server room, having sex. What is it about the server room? I need to start dating an internet geek. Let me find out what's going on in the server room. Anyway, so they're talking about compensation, and Alexa's attorney says that she understands that the church has been in the limelight negatively lately, and she is not looking to, you know, bring them back into that limelight. And Bishop, he knows what it's about. He knows we coming down to the nitty gritty and we're talking about money here. And so he says, and I hope I got this right. He says, are we talking Ford compensation, or are we talking Cadillac compensation? Now, I understood where Bishop was going, because there is a price difference in a regular old Ford and a nice Cadillac. I got that. But then I was like, it's 2016. Ain't nobody worried about no Cadillac. And apparently, Alexa's attorney understood my ESP about the whole Cadillac thing, because she said, no, we talking more like Jaguars. They nice. And I'm like, you better get your money, Alexa. So, Bishop informed her that they are between attorneys, because the devil is in jail right now. And so he's going to need a little time. And she says, well, we'll give you a week. And he said, well, thank you. So they're walking out of the office. And he was saying that he was surprised before they got out, because him and Alexa, their relationship prior to this thing. And he never said what that relationship was. And I guess what he was getting around to is that we were cool before this. And the way I felt, I was like, Bishop, like, on my bad boy list today. Me and Bishop is not vibing at all this week. In the last 2 weeks, maybe, Bishop and I really have not been vibing. So Bishop says, you know, we were cool before this went down. Okay, Bishop, if you was cool before this went down, why'd you fire that girl? What is going on between Alexa and Jacob and Carissa is between Alexa and Jacob and Carissa. Had nothing to do with the church, and it had nothing to do with you. She shouldn't have lost her job. And how dare you fire her over a personal matter and then bring up your professional relationship? Really? Come on, man. You tripping. You just tripping all the way around. You tripping with your children. You tripping with the help. You done lost your mind right about now, Bishop. So anyway, as they're leaving out, they bump into Jacob. And her attorney, she just is messy. Her and Carissa should be best friends. And she's like, oh, Pastor Greenleaf, I've heard so much about you. And he's, why? Like, who the hell are you? And then his daddy steps aside and lets Alexa slide on out the office. And she says hi, and he says hi, and they have their awkward moment. And I'm not advocating adultery. To be cheated on is the worst thing in the world, speaking from experience. But I don't think it was just sex with Alexa and Jacob. And because I don't think it was just sex with Alexa and Jacob, I think there was feelings involved. I think it's hard for them because they didn't really call it quits. They never broke up. Alexa got fired and she left. And he never got, neither of them got any closure because he didn't even know. He come in looking like Dobie Gillis, dumb as hell. You already in trouble, and the first thing you say when you walk in your daddy's office before you get sat down is, where's Alexa? Yeah, wrong move. Anyway, so we'll see, what goes on there and if there's some more involvement. Because it seems like ever since everything came to light and all of his dirt was put on the table, he's really made an effort to be a godly husband to Carissa, which is great. I applaud them. That is a good thing. But I'm wondering if it wasn't just sex, can Alexa wheedle her way back in there? Or does she even want to? So we shall see where that goes. So Jacob had come to the office to talk to his dad. And once he's seen Carissa and the lawyer and everybody coming out, he's like, it can wait. This is maybe not a good time. And his dad told him, look, I'm not a prophet, but it don't look like we got too many good times coming up lately. So come on in and let's get it over with. And so he goes in there and he's pretty much saying, I want you to reinstate me. You've set me down. I need you to reinstate me. The church is, in a bad place right now. And I feel like I can help. And Bishop tells him, now this right here threw me. Because Jacob apparently didn't receive Bishop's message the same way I received it. And like I said, Bishop has been tripping lately and on my last nerve. But to me, what he said to Jacob made the most sense ever. And apparently not to Jacob. So he says, you're not using me. You're not using Gigi from what I can see. And Bishop lets him know that should tell you that I didn't set you down because of Gigi. I'm not so sure of that. But it is, if I didn't reinstate you when I set her down, then maybe that is the truth. And he asked him, what did you want to do as a child? What was your dream before you were pretty much forced by your family into the ministry? And he was like, baseball, but what do you want me to do, coach? And I'm like, yes, Jacob, yes, coach. Coach high school, coach college, coach little league. Maybe not little league. I don't think that check's real big and you need a check. But coach, do something. Do something that you want to do. Find your passion and do that. Because if you're buying sermons off the internet, you don't want to be a preacher. You really don't. You want to make your daddy proud. You want to stand up. You mama's boy and that's what she wants. And your wife want to be first lady so bad she can taste it. But what do you want to do? Why don't you do that? Because preaching is not really your calling. That's not your strong suit. And that's pretty much what Bishop told him. Find something you're passionate about. Find something you love and do it. And I was like, that's what your father's supposed to tell you. That was a great message, I thought. Thought Bishop hit the nail on the head and everything was good. Then you see Jacob and Carissa. And he's talking about this church in Houston who's looking for a senior pastor. And now he's being selfish on top of that. And so I go back and forth. I do with Carissa. Kim Hawthorne. Amazing actress. I'm loving her. Not familiar with her work before this show, but I'm loving her on Greenleaf. But I go back and forth with Carissa because it's like she's messy. She is messy as hell, and she is intentionally messy. She does this with no regards and no qualms for anybody else. She always has an agenda. But at the same time, you like Jacob takes her through so much shit you can't help but feel sorry for her. So now that he's trying to be a good godly husband to her, and he's like, babe, we need a check. My daddy done set me down. This ain't working, and we need our income to be where it has always been. So I'm going to have to find a job at a church of that caliber as Calvary Fellowship. So he's looking at this church in Houston, and she's like, oh, it's beautiful, it's a nice church, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I think, I meet the qualifications of what they're looking for. Me and Carissa both hit him with the side eye, like, nigga, you just got straight a couple weeks ago. Before that, you were an adulterer having sex in a church house. So let's not act like you sitting at the right hand of God. But she's following along with him. She's like, the church is beautiful. You got some of these qualities, not all of them. But what am I going to do? It took me 5 years to get excellence up and running. I can't just open another school somewhere else, and I don't want to leave it. And I don't blame her. Because I see a lot of times in relationships, and it's not always the man, but mostly, because the men generally have the higher paying job, because that is the way our economy is set up. Vote, vote, and vote. So vote your conscience, please. I won't tell you how. Vote your conscience. But I'm just saying this economy is set up. This establishment, the way that it is set up, women make less money than men majority of the time. Sometimes we're doing the same job, which, But anyway, because in most situations, the man is the breadwinner of the family. If he's offered a job somewhere else, then the family uproots and goes with him because he's making the money. Well, Carissa's not really feeling the let's uproot ourselves and go with the money here in Houston, because I have done something here good. I've done something that I wanted to do, and it's strong and it's standing now, and it took me a while to get here, and I don't want to leave it and try and start all over again. And he said, well, it's either that or Basie Skanks. Basie Skanks is, I don't know what you would call it. I said, it's like the rival church, but you don't want to think of rivalries in church. I'm like, if the church was a gang, I know this is a stupid analogy, but if the church was a gang, then Bishop is OG, and Basie Skanks is the little up-and-comer that's trying to take the OG out so he can have his space. That's the way I would do that. Because there is something fishy about Basie Skanks, and I'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, Carissa tells Jacob to go ahead and contact Basie Skanks. She doesn't want to, and he's like, what's the problem? And the fact that he doesn't see the problem pisses me off. Open your eyes, listen to what she's saying, and hear her. Because she told you what the problem was. I have established something here, and I don't want to leave it. What wasn't clear about that? What are you still asking about, Jacob? She told you. She told you before you asked. So why are you hollering, what's the problem? And then typical woman, and I get mad with us, and I say us because I've been dumb before too, but to say there is no problem, go ahead and do what you call them. Because she doesn't want to go over to Basie Skanks, and she realizes that that's going to cause more of a rift between him and Bishop because of the problem with Bishop and Basie Skanks, and the fact that Basie Skanks is always coming for Bishop for something. And so she understands that, and Jacob doesn't, apparently. And so he's like, okay, well, let's settle. I'm going to contact Basie Skanks. Another thing that I find, though, and I'm saying that Jacob doesn't understand, and this time I'm behind Carissa. I'm supporting. Well, here we go again. It's 10:30. I apologize. Long day as always. But I'm with Carissa in what she's saying because it makes sense. You don't want to go to Basie Skanks, and we don't want to go to Houston. So you either find another job here doing something else, or you wait on your father to send you back to your position. And he's like, that ship has sailed. It's not going to happen. And I kind of agree with that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think he should do something else. So, another thing I wanted to say about Carissa, and this was a couple of episodes back, but when Zora had scored passing on her practice test, and Carissa makes the statement, do you want to be mediocre like your father? And I'm like, if you feel that way about your husband, why is he your husband? And then when they were doing the family puzzle, and Jacob told Winky that he was very good with the side pieces. You know, babies do the edge of the puzzle. That's the easy part. You got to grow up and get your skills up before you can do the middle. And Carissa comes back with, after he said, you're very doing good with the side pieces, she says your daddy's an expert on those. I thought they was out of line in both situations. Why are you down talking their father to them? Whether it's true or not. Why would you do that? And I mean, I don't know about Jacob's education and if he's mediocre or not. But I mean, now of course Winky didn't understand what a daggone side piece was. But why would you do that? I had a problem with that, and I never mentioned it in any other video, so it had nothing to do with this episode, but I throw it in there. Okay, so then you go to youth group, and they're still discussing Mark chapter 8, verses 24 and 25. And the youth group pastor, what's that? Pastor Ramona. And I do not know the actress who plays Pastor Ramona. But Pastor Ramona is asking them about what they thought it meant. And she says, Sophia, you've been with us for a long time, and you've never raised your hand. I don't recall you've ever raised your hand. And Sophia says, because I didn't. And she said, why? And some little knucklehead, and it's always some little knucklehead that know a part of the story and think, they have a right to say something or be funny. Some little knucklehead in youth group says she was too busy trying to make sure her uncle didn't put his hands up her skirt. And Sophia was like, Zora's like, you better shut up. And I was like, I wish Zora had just, because she seemed like she got that ratchetness in her, and I just wanted her to maul him right in his face. But you don't want to promote violence in the church and the youth group. But she should have mauled him, though, because sometimes people know what's out their mouth. And as Pastor Ramona said, some of us are learning more than others. But Zora came back with an answer that was very good. And she said the first time that Jesus wiped his eyes and he saw men like trees walking, she took that as a euphemism for people who are rooted in things. Now, maybe that's God in the church, or maybe it's your friends or your family or your job or a hobby or something, but you're rooted in that thing and you're stuck in that thing. And the second time, he seen things clearly. And I like that. I did. I like that. It still wasn't what I'd come up with, but I like that. What I came up with after reading that scripture was that it wasn't that Jesus made a mistake. It wasn't that he halfway healed him. It was intentional. God is an intentional God. Jesus is that manifestation on earth. So I don't believe, that it was an act, or he, I halfway healed him and so he saw this. No, I think it was intentional. And I think he did it to show that man, and then in turn to show us through the Bible that we see with two sets of eyes. You can see in the spiritual realm and you can see in the natural realm. And that things that you are looking at and you may think you have a clear picture and focus of in the natural realm, when looking at them through spiritual eyes, looks totally different. That's the way I took it. And then when you think about these men who are rooted, you see what Sophia said. So I just tie that right in to my own definition and my own breaking down of it. But he sees in the spiritual realm that these people are rooted in these things. And in the natural, you don't see that. You just see men. And so that was my interpretation. That's how I broke it down. So I'm, curious. Comment, let me know what you came up with, or see me on Twitter. We talk about Greenleaf all the time. Um, and I really think I got Sophia preaching. I do, and I've said it a couple times. I got Sophia preaching. If it's not by the end of this season, she coming out with a word in season 2. I feel it coming. I do, because I'm thinking it's like Gigi is anointed, and I think that's why they fear Gigi in that pulpit saying stuff. I think Gigi has the anointing, and she walked away from it because actually, probably seeing, with our natural eyes, just seeing that everybody who was in the church wasn't spiritual, and just seeing the mess that went on in her family, and then knowing that not so much that it was covered up, but that nobody did anything to stop it, and that just pushed her away from the family, pushed her away from the church. And something weird just happened on my screen. Stuff like that freaks me out. So I think that call that has been on Gigi's life, and that anointing has been passed down to Sophia, because it really astounds me that she didn't grow up in the church like Zora, and Zora knows this stuff because she's around it. Sophia is absorbing it because it actually interests her, and so I see her taking over her Aunt Charity's place and following in her Aunt Faith's footsteps, and preaching for the little saints. So I could be wrong, but we shall see. When Jacob goes over to open gym, and I guess he figures that was a way in or whatever, but he goes over to the open gym at Triumph to speak with Basie Skanks, and Basie Skanks can't shoot no ball. He was missing a lot and stuff. That's just some irrelevance, but I noticed it. I'm like, dude, Pastor is missing a lot. But Jacob was hitting. Nice form, all that good stuff, Lamar Rucker. But and he's talking to him, and he was like, I don't know exactly how he said it, but it was sort of like the prophet is only underappreciated with his father, and that's the way Jacob feels regarding Bishop. And he asks, and Basie Skank says he understands that, and Jacob says, "Oh, was your dad a hard man?" And he says, "I never knew my real father, but the man that God sent to test me by the name of Skanks was a hard man." So it says his stepfather stayed on him, but he don't know his dad. And I'm like, why is he, and I've been saying this since he came on screen, why is he so set to come after Bishop? And then I think back to Lady May saying, Bishop then did some stuff, and he ain't always been faithful, I guess. And he done took her through some stuff. And then I'm like, you got Pastor Skanks, who is just seems like set on crumbling his empire. And I'm like, is Pastor Skanks the bastard son of Bishop? And he trying to bring him down for not being there? Because I'm like, how does he know about the personal audit? How does he know all the stuff that's going on there? How does he know that Jacob and Alexa had an affair? How does he know all this stuff? And I can't even remember what he called it, but it was not an affair. And I was like, is that what we're calling it now? So anyway, after they go through all of that, and he finds out that Jacob is there and wants a job and wants to come and work at Triumph, and he was like, you have the experience of working in a large church, and I'm trying to grow Triumph into, a mega church. So I'm going to need, that could be valuable to me. Those skills and the knowledge that you have could be valuable to me. But as a man, I can't do this if your father doesn't know. So the three of us can sit down and discuss your future, but I won't do it behind his back. And that sounds great. That sounds good. And I was like, you know what? Pastor Skanks all right. He all right. And then I was like, Pastor Skanks ain't been all right the whole time he been on this show. So it's something. There is something there that he is needling somewhere, and it's going to come out. Because at first I was like, I really thought he was on a legit up and up. But the more I thought about it, I was like, he ain't been in Pastor's corner or really respecting Pastor in any way. Or Bishop. He's not. Pastor Skanks has not been respecting Bishop in any way. really since he's been on the show. So I said there's some hidden agenda there. And so we'll see that. So Jacob goes back to Bishop and tells Bishop, hey, Skanks want to meet with us, discuss my future, blah, blah, blah. Bishop feels some type of way, but instead of saying that, like men, often times are not in touch with their emotions and can't say exactly how they feel about something, he doesn't say that he doesn't want Jacob to go to Triumph. He says, oh, well, you can learn a lot from Skanks because he don't want to go behind my back, to insinuate that Jacob did. And Jacob was like, well, you don't want me here. He said, set it up. So they're going to set up this meeting and Jacob's going to go to Triumph. But before Jacob left the gym, Pastor Skanks said, you're not coming here because of that white girl, are you? He was like, what do you mean? And then he says, Alexa, she's a member here. So that's going to be some more stuff. We're going to see. And I don't want Carissa to slap Alexa. But, it's possible. It's possible if they're there together at Triumph. So we shall see what's going to happen there. Did I talk about Bishop and Gigi? I don't even know if I gave you the rundown on Bishop and Gigi. So I'm talking really fast because I've already been talking for 45 minutes. Y'all know I get into this stuff. But Gigi went to talk to the bishop and was like, I'm sorry. He was like, sorry for what? And she didn't have an answer because in reality, she didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. Neither do we. So get over yourself, Bishop. And he was like, you can't even think of nothing because you don't think he done nothing wrong. So he said, our bond is broken and I don't know if it's repairable. And I'm like, that's ignorant. You done turned into Lady May. But she said, well, that's why I'm sorry, which is a legitimate reason to be sorry because Daddy's girl does not want to break her bond with Daddy. And he said, you're not sorry, you're sad. And I was like, damn, that was almost a Lady May line that cut so deep. That is mean. And so he was just like, you know what? This is the hand of God. And stuff like this irritates me. Don't try to put the Lord in your mess. You can't say that this is the hand of God that is coming at Gigi for disrupting your life because you were wrong. So God ain't going to uphold you in no wrong. I'm sorry, my eye is itching, guys. I know that look all crazy and retarded on camera, but it's itching. So he says, the hand of intervention of God or something like that has brought Ray back here to test you with custody of Sophia. And at that point, Gigi about ready to cuss him out. And she was like, you know what? You're right. We don't have nothing else to say. And she goes out. Meanwhile, it's Bishop and Lady May's 44th wedding anniversary. And so he has Corinne, my favorite assistant, order her some flowers. Lady May calls Corinne and asks where these come from because she didn't forgot or just don't care right about now that it is her 44th anniversary. And she says, Bishop ordered them for you. Said today's your 44th anniversary. Did he have the day right? And she said, yeah, he got it right. And you can go. And then when Bishop comes out of the office, we see that Lady May done threw the flowers in the trash out beside Corinne's desk. And he like, really? And he go home calling her name, and she ain't home. So Lady May apparently went out for her anniversary without her spouse. And she getting her life while you home by yourself. And then Gigi and Sophia are talking out on the balcony. And Sophia, and I just love their moments. They're like my favorite television mom-daughter duo right now. And their chemistry is great. And she says, why are you, what are you doing out here or whatever? Brain freeze, I was thinking about something else. And she says, wait a minute, let me back up. Before I get to that, let me get back to Gigi and Noah. Because what happened was, the reason that this review is so late getting to you guys is that I was watching, and when Gigi is telling Noah about how Sophia feels about having to go to court and say which parent she wants to live with, and she doesn't want to be in that position, and it's not fair that Gigi's decision to move has put her in that position. And I totally agree with her. And so then when after Gigi says that she wishes she had more to offer Noah, and he says, I don't want anything else, and then she like, really, why not? And that whole thing, because I think I said something about it earlier, I'm not sure. That's what I was thinking about. Did I say that? Did I not? Did I miss something? So anyway, he tries to get her to stay, drink a little more wine, and I'm like, yes, drink the wine, Gigi, drink the wine, don't leave him tonight. And that didn't go over, and he kissed her, and she was just like, pulled away from him. You could tell that his statement had really put her off from him. And so she put her head down, he put his head to hers, and then she said, I should go. And he said, okay, I'll get your coat. And he gets up to go get her coat, and I'm yelling at the TV, Noah, do not go get the coat. Ask her to stay. Ask her to stay and she'll stay. I swear if you ask her, she'll stay. He ain't asked. So I was a little upset with him. I'm like, he don't ever listen to me when I tell him to do stuff. And then the Lord, in his infinite wisdom, saw fit at that time to bring a storm through and knock my satellite out while Noah was going to get the coat. So I didn't know if he got the coat, if she left, if she stayed. Oh my God, I like to have a nervous breakdown last night. And so I saw the remaining 15 minutes of the episode today. And so that's why I'm coming with the review today instead of yesterday. But if y'all follow me on YouTube or Facebook, then you know that I really was, in a way, not knowing what happened. And it was just so crazy. So now we get back to Sophia and Gigi on the balcony. And she was like, just taking in the views. Like, I want to remember it in case I have to leave. And she was saying that she didn't want to leave. And then she said, listen to that. And Gigi was like, what? And she was like, the silence is so loud. And in a lot of situations it is. And I love that line. I did. And I was thinking, for most of these episodes in this season 1, it's been high and get me all riled up. And then when we got to, was it 7? I get one train hides another. I think that was 7. And that one was kind of low key. And I said, in the low key episodes of Greenleaf, I learn a lot. And this one was another one that was low key. Now we know episode 9, I about went to the hospital because my heart rate was racing. I was too hyped. 97 beats a minute. I was way up. And so this one was really calm. And now granted, my pulse went way up when the Lord saw fit to knock my satellite out, and I missed them last 15 minutes. But that was a whole different thing. But it just made me really tear apart that scripture that they were working with, Mark 8. For this episode, because I was just listening to what they were saying. I was listening to what they were saying. When it's calm and it's not a whole bunch of energy and it's not a whole bunch of, oh my God, did you see that? Did you hear what she said going on? Then that's when they put the lessons in my opinion. There's lessons in all of them. I like the fact that this show always mentions the title of the episode in the episode somewhere. So it's always a lesson. It's always a learning experience. And I like that they do use biblical references, because just like Sleepy Hollow with Nicole Bahari, I'm forced to go and look it up. If I don't know it, I have to look it up. Even if I do know it or I've heard it before, when put in the context of the show, I have to look it up and see if I get the same thing that the writers got, and that the crew got. And most of the time I don't, but it also opens my eyes to look at it the way that they saw it after I determine, my own interpretation of it from my own reading. And so I thought that was good. So when she said the silence is like so loud, I was like, it is, because I hear so much more when they say nothing. And so this episode, Greenleaf, season 1, episode 11. What is it called? Men Like Trees Walking. It was written by Casey Vandeventer and directed by Greg, I think it's Araki, Araki. I think it's Iraqi. So, thank you all. Subscribe, like, dislike, comment, start a conversation, whatever it is that you want to do. And I thank you all for your time and thank you for watching.